What if the dreams you slip into each night are not random at all, but carefully orchestrated experiments designed by intelligences far beyond your comprehension? What if the flickering fragments of memory and surreal landscapes are not mistakes of the mind, but data points in a cosmic laboratory? Imagine for a moment that every nightmare, every impossible journey, every face that should not exist is recorded, studied, and perhaps even engineered. As you let this possibility settle in, ask yourself quietly, if higher beings are watching your dreams, do they also hear your waking thoughts? If this question stirs something deep within, remember to subscribe now and share in the comments. Do you believe your strangest dream was really yours? Or did someone place it there to see how you would react? Think about last night when you drifted off. The transition was slow, your body sinking deeper into stillness, your breath finding a rhythm. Yet at some point, without control, you entered a story. A city perhaps, but not one you knew. A conversation perhaps with someone long gone. The detail felt real, even though the edges bent and dissolved. Now picture a researcher, a presence not bound by time, observing the choices you made in that dream. Did you run or did you stay? Did you show fear or courage? Was it you or was it the test? Dark. Alan Hobson from Harvard once proposed that dreams are the brain's attempt to make sense of chaotic signals during sleep. But what if the chaos itself is an illusion, a veil? If dreams serve as rehearsals, as evolution's quiet classroom, then why should we dismiss the idea that someone, or something, uses them as a platform to measure human resilience? Ancient Sumerian tablets describe dream temples where priests acted as guides, believing divine entities planted visions to shape destiny. From the very first civilizations, people whispered that dreams were more than private illusions. They were messages. They were examinations. Imagine you are standing in a hallway of doors. Behind each one lies a different dreamscape. You turn a knob, enter, and suddenly you are flying. Why flying? Perhaps to see how you handle freedom. Another night, you are trapped in a collapsing building. Why destruction? Perhaps to watch your response to crisis. Could it be that the scenarios of your subconscious are assignments? Silent case studies recorded not by neurons, but by watchful observers. You might recall a dream where you knew you were dreaming, and yet the environment seemed to resist your control. Lucid dreamers often describe moments when the dream pushes back, almost as if the stage has a mind of its own. Could that resistance be the hand of the experimenter, ensuring the test runs to completion? What feels personal may in fact be structured, a program you enter when your body rests. And so, as you continue to listen, consider this. If your nightly experiences are indeed experiments, then each dream holds data about you that is more intimate than your diary, more revealing than your actions in daylight. It might show who you truly are when stripped of memory and logic. And perhaps, when dawn comes, you are not alone in carrying those results. Somewhere, beyond sight, they are already studied. Across the vast sweep of history, ancient civilizations left behind stories that seem to echo the possibility that dreams were not merely personal illusions but portals, communications or even examinations from higher realms. These echoes come to us like fragments of a forgotten language, carrying clues about how our ancestors understood the dream world and its strange relationship to forces beyond human reach. The Egyptians, for example, treated dreams with reverence. In the temples of Serapis and Imhotep, dream incubation chambers were built. Citizens seeking healing or guidance would sleep within the stone halls, believing that higher beings would enter their dreams to deliver answers. What is striking is that these rituals were systematic, not random. Priests acted as interpreters, carefully recording the visions. This structure resembles nothing less than a controlled experiment, one in which the human sleeper was the subject and the dream was the data. The Greeks carried this tradition further. At the temples of Asclepius, men and women would lie upon animal skins, awaiting dream visitations. Physicians then prescribed treatments based on the content of those dreams. Could this not suggest that an unseen intelligence shaped those experiences, delivering messages tailored precisely to the dreamer's ailment? To them, the dream world was not chaos but a coded system. Darker. Karl Kare Nye, a 20th century scholar of mythology, described how Greeks believed the gods communicated directly through dreams, sending instructions in symbolic form. If gods were involved, who is to say they were not conducting observations, gauging how mortals responded to carefully constructed visions? Travel eastward to Mesopotamia, and you find clay tablets inscribed with dream catalogs, some dating back 4,000 years. These texts list scenarios, dreaming of water, of lions, of flight, and link each to outcomes in waking life. The uniformity is uncanny, almost as if the people sensed repeating experimental conditions. One wonders if the Mesopotamians recognized that dreams were patterned, as though engineered from beyond. The scholar A. Leo Oppenheim noted that these dream manuals were used like reference books, suggesting a consistency of origin rather than random neural firing. In India, the Upanishads spoke of dreams as a layer of consciousness existing between waking and deep sleep. In the Chandogya Upanishad, dreams are said to be woven by the self, yet also influenced by cosmic forces. This duality hints at both agency and oversight. Your own mind may create, but a higher intelligence may seed. Later, Buddhist texts describe dreams of clarity in which bodhisattvas appeared, not as mere visions, but as teachers testing the disciples' readiness for deeper truths. Were these spiritual tests, or something closer to controlled experiments? China's traditions echo the same mysteries. The Taoist sage Zhuangzi asked, "Am I a man dreaming I am a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming I am a man?" Embedded in that paradox is the suspicion that dreams may be realms of observation, where identities can be swapped to measure perception. Meanwhile, emperors of the Han Dynasty employed official dream interpreters, relying on nocturnal visions to guide political decisions. This reliance suggests that dreams were not seen as private fantasy, but as transmissions from powers outside the individual. Consider the universality. From Sumer to Egypt, from Greece to India, from China to the indigenous traditions of the Americas, cultures independently arrived at the same conviction. that dreams connect humans with something greater, and that those connections often felt imposed rather than self-created. The Navajo spoke of dreams as journeys where holy people tested the soul. The Maya believed in dream trials, where one's spirit would face ordeals arranged by the lords of Xibalba. The word, test, reappears across the world, echoing our central question. Were dreams considered experiments because humans instinctively sensed a guiding hand shaping them? Now imagine yourself as a villager thousands of years ago. You awaken from a dream in which a god has set you a task, and your entire community believes the task is real. You feel the weight of that dream, not as imagination, but as assignment. Was that not the perfect condition for higher beings to observe human behavior under controlled stimulus? And so, as you continue to listen, allow yourself to recognize how persistent this idea has been. Across time and geography, people recorded their dreams with seriousness, often building social structures around them. If so many civilizations perceived dreams as engineered experiences, is it truly unreasonable for us, in the modern age, to consider the possibility that higher beings have always used dreams as laboratories? What seemed to them divine could in fact have been experimental, and what seems to us random may be exactly the same. When you step back and examine the teachings of mystical figures and the timeless texts they left behind, a remarkable thread emerges. Whether cloaked in poetry, parable, or sacred instruction, many of these teachings hint that dreams are not accidental. They suggest instead that dreams are crafted encounters, woven into human lives by forces beyond ordinary perception. Mystical teachers across cultures often spoke of dreams not as meaningless illusions, but as lessons, tests, or direct transmissions from higher planes. The Bible, for instance, presents dreams as divine communication. Joseph in Genesis receives guidance through dreams, interpreting Pharaoh's visions of famine with astonishing accuracy. These are not casual nocturnal wanderings. They are deliberate scenarios carrying instruction and warning. St. Augustine, centuries later, pondered whether such dreams could be doorways to another order of existence. If these narratives are true, then perhaps the dreams served not only as revelations, but as controlled interventions, measured to see how humans would act. In Islamic tradition, the Prophet Muhammad described dreams as one part of prophecy. The Hadith literature even distinguishes between three kinds of dreams: those from God, those from the self, and those from outside, which may be deceptive. The precision of this categorization resembles the notes of a scientist distinguishing variables. Could these distinctions reflect an ancient awareness that dreams originate from multiple sources, including perhaps beings who run their own experiments within the sleeping mind? Consider also the Hindu yogic traditions. In the Yoga Vasistha, dreams are said to be as real as waking life, both being projections within consciousness. The sage instructs that dreams can be manipulated to grow spiritually. Yet embedded in these lessons is an intriguing undertone, that what seems self-created might actually be planted. When yogis speak of dream, gurus appearing to test discipline or compassion, we might interpret these as experiments by higher intelligences observing moral choices under conditions stripped of worldly consequence. The mystics of Kabbalah also entered this conversation. In the Zohar, dreams are portrayed as messages filtered through angels, sometimes distorted but often carrying truth. A Kabbalist might say that your soul travels during sleep to receive tests of faith or glimpses of wisdom. These experiences are structured, not haphazard. Modern scholar Gershom Scholem argued that the mystical texts of Judaism treat dreams as semi-divine laboratories where human character is assessed. What better description for experiments run by higher beings? Buddhism, too, offers striking parallels. Tibetan dream yoga trains practitioners to maintain awareness in dreams, meeting deities and facing trials. Teachers emphasize that these encounters are not random. They are intentional, designed to dissolve fear and attachment. When a dream presents terrifying imagery, the practitioner learns to hold presence. But ask yourself, who designs the terrifying scene? If the mind alone, why does it so often mirror mythic archetypes universal to all humans? Perhaps, as Carl Jung observed, these archetypes suggest a collective influence, as if dreams are shaped by a shared field monitored by something beyond us. Mystical teachers across centuries repeated a curious pattern. They framed dreams as classrooms, the dreamer as the pupil, and an unseen presence as the instructor. The lessons could be moral, spiritual, or practical, but they were always purposeful. Meister Eckhart, the German mystic, wrote that God sometimes teaches more in a single dream than in years of reading scripture. What kind of teaching is this? Unless it is structured with intent. Imagine lying down at night and drifting into a dream where a radiant figure sets you a choice. Save the child or save the treasure. You wake unsettled, unsure what it meant. From a mystical lens, the choice was not for entertainment, but to measure your inner compass. Your reaction, your decision, becomes part of a hidden record. If that record exists, then the dream was not yours alone. It was shared, perhaps orchestrated. And so, as you continue to listen, notice how these mystical voices converge. Christian saints, Islamic scholars, Hindu sages, Jewish mystics, Buddhist teachers, all whispered the same secret. Dreams may not be private. They may be supervised. If such diverse traditions point in one direction, is it possible they were glimpsing the same truth? That human dreams are experiments in which higher beings test our capacity for faith, compassion, courage, and growth. Modern science has often treated dreams as puzzles to be solved, biological phenomena to be measured, or psychological artifacts to be interpreted. Yet beneath the rational surface of laboratories and theories, even the most careful researchers sometimes brush against mysteries that echo the ancient and mystical. The foundations of modern dream science are rich with experiments, discoveries, and questions that might unintentionally reveal something larger. Perhaps even the fingerprints of higher beings at work. In the late 19th century, Sigmund Freud declared that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious. To him, they were coded messages from hidden desires. Yet notice the structure: messages, symbols, communication. Freud did not frame them as meaningless static. He framed them as information waiting to be decoded. like the results of a test delivered in riddles. His student Carl Jung carried the thought further. Jung suggested dreams draw upon the collective unconscious, an inherited reservoir of archetypes shared by all humanity. If that is true, then dreams are not entirely personal. They connect you to a shared blueprint, something that could be manipulated by forces beyond yourself. Jung himself wondered whether synchronicities in dreams pointed toward an intelligence within the universe that actively interacts with human life. By the mid-20th century, neuroscience entered the scene. In 1953, researchers Eugene A. Serinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago discovered rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep, the phase most associated with vivid dreaming. This discovery was monumental. It suggested that dreaming was not random, but tied to specific biological rhythms. What if those rhythms were not only internal, but also external, tuned by influences beyond human awareness? Later, Michel Jovet in France described REM sleep as paradoxical sleep, a stage where the brain is highly active though the body is paralyzed. Why would evolution design such a paradox unless it served a higher observational purpose? Studies by Dr. Alan Rechtschaffen at the University of Chicago in the 1970s found that depriving rats of REM sleep led to severe physiological breakdown and eventual death. The body seemed to demand dreaming as a necessity. If dreams are experiments, perhaps the necessity itself ensures participation. Humans cannot escape them. The lab is built into biology. Modern imaging techniques added new dimensions. In the 1990s, Dr. Mark Solms used PET scans to show that dreams involve the limbic system, the emotional centers, rather than the rational frontal lobes. Dreams test not logic but emotion. They reveal what you feel when stripped of reason. Is this not the perfect experiment to measure authenticity, to expose the raw responses of the human being? Psychologists like Rosalind Cartwright studied divorcees and trauma survivors, showing how their dreams evolved over time. She argued that dreams function like therapy sessions, allowing the mind to process and adapt. But step back. Therapy sessions are structured interactions. If dreams heal, then who or what built the structure? The design seems intentional, almost compassionate, yet also exacting. Lucid dream research provides another window. In controlled lab studies, such as those by Dr. Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University, lucid dreamers were instructed to move their eyes in prearranged patterns while dreaming. Astonishingly, they succeeded, signaling from within the dream. This means the dream world is not closed. It is interactive. Experiments can be conducted there. If humans can design experiments inside dreams, should we not also consider that higher beings might have been doing so all along, observing how we react in environments they craft? Imagine lying in a sleep lab, electrodes attached, while scientists measure your brainwaves. Now imagine a parallel, invisible lab, where higher beings measure something subtler. Your courage in a nightmare, your tenderness in a reunion, your honesty when confronted with temptation. Science seeks mechanisms, but the mechanisms may themselves be instruments in someone else's study. As you continue to listen, reflect on the possibility that modern dream science has been mapping the architecture of a system designed not by chance but by intelligence. Freud saw messages, Jung saw archetypes, neuroscientists saw rhythms, psychologists saw structure, and lucid dreamers saw interaction. Each discovery might be a fragment of a larger truth, that the dream state is not a byproduct of the brain, but a platform, maintained and observed, where higher beings run their experiments night after night. Every great leap in scientific thought has not only reshaped our view of waking life, but also transformed how we see the dream world. Revolutions in thought rarely remain confined to laboratories or equations. They ripple outward, reframing the strange experiences that occur each night behind closed eyes. When we trace these revolutions, a subtle but compelling idea emerges: that dreams might not be random fireworks of neurons, but domains where larger forces interact with human consciousness, as if experiments were being run in tandem with humanity's evolving knowledge. At the turn of the 20th century, physics itself shifted. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity dismantled the idea of absolute time and space. Suddenly, reality became relative to the observer. This revelation raised profound questions about perception, and dreams became an arena where relativity felt instinctively real. In dreams, minutes can stretch into hours, or nights collapse into seconds. Could Einstein's revolution have hinted that the dream state is already aligned with deeper cosmic principles that higher beings might exploit when designing their experiments? Later, quantum mechanics shattered classical certainty even further. Werner Heisenberg revealed that observation itself changes outcomes, and Niels Bohr described the duality of particles behaving as both waves and matter. In the dream state, the dreamer is both participant and observer, shifting the reality simply by noticing it. This mirrors quantum paradoxes so closely that some physicists, such as Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, have speculated that dreams could be windows into quantum reality itself. If that is so, then higher beings may be using dreams as their testing ground, precisely because dreams function like a living quantum experiment, responsive to attention and perception. The rise of psychology was another revolution. Freud reduced dreams to coded desires, but Jung exploded the conversation by connecting them to universal archetypes. This idea suggested that dreams tap into a collective structure larger than any single mind. If such a shared field exists, then perhaps higher beings access it, crafting dream experiences that multiple people share. Reports of collective dreams, documented by ethnographers and psychologists alike, hint that dream experiments may not be confined to the individual but conducted across groups, measuring how humanity responds collectively to shared scenarios. Neuroscience added its own upheaval. The discovery of REM sleep in 1953 was more than a technical note. It was a revolution in understanding. For the first time, science could identify a biological rhythm linked to the dream world. Subsequent research revealed predictable cycles, brainwave patterns, and chemical shifts that govern dreams. The precision of these patterns raises an unsettling question. Are they natural rhythms alone, or also part of a framework maintained by intelligence beyond our species? Just as Einstein uncovered laws of relativity, and quantum theorists uncovered uncertainty. Sleep science uncovered the strict laws of dreaming. Laws suggest design, and design suggests experimenters. Even technology has sparked revolutions in dream perception. In recent decades, virtual reality and artificial intelligence have blurred the line between simulated and real. Scientists such as Dr. Thomas Metzinger of Johannes, Gutenberg University argue that dreams are the brain's oldest virtual reality machine. If humans can build digital dreamscapes now, does that not strengthen the argument that beings more advanced than us could have been doing it all along, planting us nightly into carefully crafted simulations? Imagine lying in bed centuries ago, unaware of relativity, quantum paradoxes, or brainwave charts. Your dream felt strange but isolated. Now, in the modern age, with revolutions in science surrounding us, we can no longer dismiss the parallels. Time distortion in dreams echoes relativity. Observer effects in dreams echo quantum mechanics. Archetypes echo psychology's collective unconscious. Brain rhythms echo neuroscience's laws. Virtual simulations echo our own technological experiments. Together, these revolutions form a pattern that whispers. Dreams might be more than inner theater. They might be crafted arenas used by higher beings to measure how we respond to conditions beyond waking logic. And as you continue to listen, allow yourself to consider what it means to live in an era shaped by such revolutions. If every leap in science has brought dreams closer to the center of inquiry, perhaps the ultimate revolution still waits for us. The recognition that our nightly journeys are not private at all, but part of a larger cosmic experiment, run by intelligences who see in us something worth studying, night after night. History does not merely whisper about strange dreams. It shouts them, etched in diaries, letters, chronicles, and sacred texts. Again and again, we find accounts where individuals reported dreams so vivid, so uncanny, that entire lives and nations were altered by them. These records invite us to wonder, were such dreams spontaneous eruptions of imagination, or were they orchestrated experiments, watched closely by higher beings to observe human response in pivotal moments of history? One of the most famous examples is that of King Gilgamesh of Mesopotamia, who dreamed of a meteor crashing to Earth, which he interpreted as a sign of the coming of his companion Enkidu. Recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, over 4,000 years ago, the dream was not random, it was prophetic, precise, and tied to destiny. Why such detail? Unless it was a staged scenario meant to guide and test a ruler. Move forward to ancient Greece. Herodotus, the historian, wrote of King Xerxes, who dreamed repeatedly of a phantom, urging him to invade Greece. Despite warnings and hesitation, Xerxes felt compelled by the dream's insistence. Was this compulsion the result of his subconscious, or was an experiment underway, crafted by higher beings to measure how a king would react under the weight of repeated dream pressure? The invasion that followed reshaped history. Perhaps the dream was the true catalyst, and perhaps it was no accident. Biblical accounts deepen the puzzle. Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus, was visited by dreams instructing him to protect the child and flee to Egypt. These dreams were so decisive that they safeguarded a life, which changed the course of spiritual history. If higher beings wish to test humanity's readiness for transformation, what better way than through guiding dreams delivered to a simple carpenter at a fragile moment? Joan of Arc, too, reported visions and dreamlike encounters with saints commanding her to lead armies. Her testimony before inquisitors repeatedly described dreamlike states of instruction. Was her courage her own, or was she the subject of a trial run, her resolve measured in the laboratory of vision and dream? Even in modern history, dreams surface with eerie timing. Abraham Lincoln, just days before his assassination, described to close friends a dream of walking through the White House toward a coffin guarded by soldiers. When asked who lay within, he said it was himself. The dream read like a chilling premonition. But what if it was not prediction at all? What if it was an experiment, an observation of how a leader confronted the certainty of death? Artists and scientists, too, credit dreams with breakthroughs that changed humanity. Dmitri Mendeleev dreamed of the periodic table, arranged perfectly. Elias Howe dreamed of a spear-piercing fabric, which inspired the design of the sewing machine needle. Mary Shelley dreamed of a corpse reanimated by lightning, and Frankenstein was born. Each of these dreams was precise, useful, and transformative. Too precise, perhaps, to dismiss as coincidence. Could it be that higher beings seeded such dreams deliberately, planting knowledge to see how humans would use it? Were these the controlled drops of data, testing whether we would destroy ourselves or create anew? Personal stories, though quieter, carry the same weight. A farmer dreams of a flood, moves his animals to higher ground, and survives. A soldier dreams of home, feels suddenly compelled to desert the front line, and avoids a massacre. Such anecdotes, though scattered, form a pattern, dreams arriving with timing too exact to ignore. Are these coincidences, or instances where higher beings ran micro experiments, adjusting scenarios, nudging outcomes, observing the ripples through individual lives? Consider, for a moment, your own strangest dream. That one dream that left you trembling upon waking, convinced it meant something. Now ask, did it truly come from you? Or was it given to you, carefully, like a test handed across dimensions? The thought unsettles, but it also aligns with the historical record. Dreams have always influenced decisions, altered paths, saved lives, and shifted empires. As you continue to listen, notice how these accounts accumulate into something larger than coincidence. They form a tapestry suggesting that humanity's dreams have long been monitored, guided, and perhaps manipulated. The question then is not whether history has been shaped by dreams, but whether those dreams were shaped by higher beings using humanity as participants in an experiment too vast for us to fully see. In the modern age, the strangest dream phenomena no longer hide in monasteries or royal courts. They spill across clinics, labs, and message boards at 3 a.m, where people compare notes about visions that feel engineered. Consider sleep paralysis. You awaken unable to move while a presence stands near the bed. The room hums. The air feels thick. Neurologists explain the body's REM atonia, bleeding into wakefulness. Yet reports contain uncanny consistencies across culture and time. Dr. J. Alan Chain at the University of Waterloo cataloged thousands of cases and found repeating motifs: intruders, pressure on the chest, a testing gaze. Why should a purely physiological glitch organize itself into a scripted encounter, unless some guiding hand is standardizing the test conditions? Several patients describe being told not to panic, as if an examiner were taking baseline readings. If higher beings wanted to watch fear rise without movement, paralysis would be the perfect apparatus. Then, there are shared dreams. Couples, siblings, and strangers describe meeting in the same landscape, exchanging details that match on waking. Psychologist Dr. Patrick McNamara has written about dream sociality, the way nocturnal minds weave together stories that sometimes overlap, but the overlaps often include specific dialogue and rare symbols. If two minds are separate, why do they walk the same corridor at the same hour? Perhaps shared dreams are group trials designed to measure cooperation, empathy, or contagion of ideas under symbolic pressure. Technology has produced fresh puzzles. Wearable EEG headbands and sleep apps quietly collect billions of nights of data. Analysts notice clusters, surges of anxiety dreams after global events. Still, the synchronicity suggests a field effect, as if the dream lab links participants through subtle cues. If higher beings wanted to run population-level experiments, the modern sensorium would provide the dashboard. Psychedelic research complicates the boundary. In the 1990s, Dr. Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico administered DMT and recorded participants meeting entities who seemed curious, clinical, even supervisory. Some subjects felt examined. Neurochemistry can explain visions. But the recurring theme of being tested by non-human intelligences echoes the sleep laboratory of paralysis and the overlap of shared dreams. Pharmacology may only tune the receiver to a channel the dream uses nightly. Dr. Andrew Gallimore has proposed extended state DMT to allow sustained contact and structured questioning, a protocol that looks uncomfortably like experimental design. Abduction narratives sit at the edge of the modern mythos. Psychiatrist Dr. John Mack at Harvard interviewed experiencers who reported being taken, examined, and returned, often through dreamlike sequences. He argued that the phenomenon behaved like a crisis of meaning, rather than psychosis. Whether literal or symbolic, the structure looks like a protocol: selection, transport, testing, memory obfuscation. Note how many encounters begin in bed and blur into dreams. If not spacecraft, then perhaps a substrate of consciousness in which experiments routinely unfold. Digital culture reveals new anomalies. Across platforms, clusters of people post the same dream images on the same night. Staircases that never end, rooms with one red door, oceans under a violet sky. No one knows each other, yet the motifs align. Could a coordinated series of prompts be pushed into the human dream stream to watch how themes propagate through language and art the next day? The internet then becomes the experiment's readout, a heat map of collective symbolism. Near-death research touches the edge as well. Dr. Pim van Lommel documented patients who flatlined yet reported hypercoherent realms, life reviews, and guiding presences. These are not ordinary dreams, but they rhyme. The review feels like assessment. The presences feel like supervisors. If consciousness can slip free of the body while the brain is silent, then the dream lab may extend beyond sleep into the borderlands of death and return. Notice the through line: a paralysis visitor who watches, an entity who questions under DMT, a luminous being who conducts a review, a stranger who meets you in the same dream corridor. Different contexts, one shape, an encounter that measures times and records. Perhaps modern life has not created these events. It has simply given us microphones and clocks to mark them with precision. As you continue to listen, let your breath slow. Imagine your next dream as a study with variables already in place. Setting, characters, constraints. Your reactions are the data. Your emotions are signals. And somewhere beyond the ceiling, someone tallies the results, waiting patiently to see whether you choose fear, curiosity, or kindness when the door opens and the test begins. Few things unsettle the human mind more than paradoxes. Those moments when logic folds in on itself, when two truths contradict yet coexist. Quantum physics thrives on paradox, and so too, it seems, does the dream world. The closer scientists peer into both realms, the more the similarities stand out. Dreams behave like paradoxical laboratories, bending rules of time and identity, echoing the strangeness of subatomic reality. Could it be that higher beings exploit these very paradoxes, designing dreams as miniature quantum experiments to observe how consciousness adapts when laws of reality refuse to behave? Take the paradox of time. In waking life, time marches forward second by second. But in dreams, whole decades can unfold in minutes, or a long night's journey can collapse into a few instants. This is more than distortion. It is a structural paradox. Dr. Ernest Hartman of Tufts University noted that dream time often appears elastic, shaped more by narrative need than by clock. Physicist Julian Barber has argued that time itself may be an illusion, a sequence of snapshots assembled by consciousness. If this is true, then dream time might be the perfect sandbox for higher beings to manipulate perception, slowing or speeding conditions to watch how we respond under varied temporal stress. Another paradox: identity. In dreams, you are both yourself and not yourself. You slip between perspectives, sometimes watching your own body from outside, sometimes merging into another person entirely. Jung called these shifts archetypal masks, while modern neuroscientists see them as misfirings of self-models in the brain. But ask, why should selfhood dissolve into multiplicity unless the stage is designed to test adaptability? A higher intelligence could observe how you navigate fractured identity, how you respond when the I is fluid rather than fixed. The paradox of control is equally fascinating. In lucid dreams, you realize you are dreaming and take control, shaping landscapes and outcomes. Yet just when mastery seems secure, the dream often resists. Walls refuse to move, characters defy commands, gravity reasserts itself. Dr. Stephen LaBerge documented this resistance, noting that even skilled lucid dreamers meet obstacles. Why would an internal hallucination push back against its creator unless some external framework ensured the experiment continued on course? Perhaps the paradox of partial control is itself the test. measuring persistence when agency is limited. Consider the quantum paradox of the observer effect. Subatomic particles behave one way when unobserved, and another way when measured. In dreams, events often shift the moment you notice them. A background blur crystallizes into a figure the moment you turn your gaze. A meaningless murmur becomes a full conversation once you decide to listen. This is not unlike the double, slit experiment where observation changes outcome. Dreams mirror this quantum behavior so precisely that one wonders if they are built to reflect the same principle. Consciousness collapses potential into reality, and higher beings watch how you collapse yours. Superposition is yet another paradox. In quantum physics, a particle can exist in multiple states until observed. In dreams, contradictory truths coexist. Your childhood home contains futuristic skyscrapers. Your deceased grandmother is alive yet also dead. You accept these impossibilities without question, at least until waking. Could higher beings be orchestrating these superpositions, testing how long the mind tolerates contradiction before resisting? Your tolerance might reveal much about your flexibility or rigidity in processing the unknown. Entanglement offers the final clue. In quantum mechanics, two particles remain linked across vast distances. In dreams, entanglement appears in shared symbols, collective dreams, and the uncanny synchronicities reported the next day. Two people may dream of the same storm, or you may dream of a friend, only to receive their message upon waking. Entanglement in dreams suggests the laboratory extends beyond the individual mind. Perhaps higher beings create these entangled dream scenarios to measure not just you, but the invisible threads linking communities. As you continue to listen, notice how the dream world and quantum world rhyme. Both dissolve linear time, stable identity, and fixed reality. Both thrive on paradox. If higher beings wish to observe consciousness in its rawest form, where rules bend and contradictions live side by side, what better stage than the paradoxical dream? What seems chaotic may in fact be the most elegant experiment of all, testing how the human spirit dances when logic itself dissolves and only wonder remains. Probability governs more of our lives than most of us realize. The roll of dice, the shuffle of cards, the weather forecast, even the branching paths of daily decisions. All are shaped by probabilities. Yet nowhere is probability more elastic, more unpredictable than inside the dream world. You may toss a coin and watch it land on both heads and tails simultaneously. You may take one step forward and suddenly find yourself in an entirely different city. The rules of chance seem rewritten. Could it be that dreams are designed laboratories where higher beings explore probability, not as math on paper, but as lived experience, seeing how consciousness navigates worlds where likelihood bends into impossibility? Psychologist Calvin Hall once collected thousands of dream reports and noted that improbable events are not only common in dreams, but are often accepted without resistance. A dreamer will calmly watch fish rain from the sky or see a door open into a desert. Why do improbable events feel natural in dreams? Some researchers suggest the brain's reality. Checking mechanisms switch off during REM sleep. But what if that suspension is intentional? If higher beings wanted to observe how humans respond to low probability scenarios, they would need to place us in environments where improbability feels ordinary, ensuring authentic reaction rather than dismissal. Think of lotteries and games of chance in waking life. People are fascinated precisely because probability contains both risk and reward. In dreams, the stakes are stranger. You may be offered two paths, one clearly safe, one impossibly dangerous. You choose, and the outcome unfolds. Was that choice random? Or was it engineered to measure how you weigh odds when probability itself is warped? Physics again offers echoes. Dr. David Deutsch of Oxford, champion of the many worlds interpretation, argues that every possible outcome of a quantum event does occur in parallel realities. In dreams, we often experience this directly, choosing both paths, seeing both outcomes. You might die in one sequence and continue in another. You might take two different trains and live both stories. Dreams seem to embody probabilities branching, a phenomenon physicists describe mathematically, but dreamers experience subjectively. Could higher beings use dreams to run probability trees, testing how one consciousness navigates multiple forks at once? Probability also governs fear. Imagine being chased in a nightmare. The chance of escape seems slim. Your mind calculates odds without realizing. You dart down an alley, climb a wall, or freeze in place. Each choice shifts the likelihood of survival. Nightmares then become statistical tests, experiments in how you handle dwindling probabilities. If observed, they reveal whether you persist when odds are against you or whether you yield. Shared dream anomalies strengthen the case. Reports of global dream themes after major disasters, airplanes crashing, tidal waves, sudden storms, suggest a collective shift in probability fields. Dreams seem to forecast unlikely events with eerie accuracy. Researchers like Dr. Stanley Krippner documented dream precognition experiments in the 1960s, finding statistical deviations above chance. Could it be that dreams allow glimpses into unfolding probability waves, and higher beings observe how humans handle foreknowledge or anxiety about unlikely futures? Consider your own dream memory. Recall a time when you faced impossible odds, yet found yourself victorious. Did you awaken inspired, braver than before? Perhaps the experiment measured your threshold for optimism. Or recall the opposite, a dream where everything collapsed despite your best effort. Did you wake heavy, cautious, doubting? Perhaps the experiment measured resilience after perceived failure. Both outcomes yield data about you, about humanity. Probability also touches creativity. Artists often describe dream inspirations as improbable juxtapositions. Musical scores formed instantly, inventions revealed in flashes, unlikely images blended into new art. The improbability itself is the seed of innovation. If higher beings wanted to test our capacity to innovate, improbable dream combinations would be the perfect stimulus. As you continue to listen, let yourself drift into the recognition that probability is not cold numbers alone. It is woven into the fabric of dreams, where unlikely events unfold not as absurdity, but as natural law. Higher beings, if they watch, might use this domain to observe how consciousness adapts when probability itself is fluid, when every throw of the dice, every path chosen, every impossible event accepted, reveals who we truly are when faced with the unpredictable. When you close your eyes and drift into the depths of sleep, your mind does not merely wander into landscapes of random design. It expands, contracts, and bends into dimensions that defy waking comprehension. These dimensions of the mind are not only inner reflections, but may in fact be extensions of a much larger architecture. Layers of reality constructed to examine what lies beyond the ordinary self. Exploring the mind's dimensions within dreams feels like stepping into corridors of consciousness, where the rules of waking life dissolve, and what remains may be the stage for higher beings to test the boundaries of human potential. One dimension often reported is the symbolic. In this layer, every image feels like a metaphor. A house becomes the self. A locked room becomes repressed memory. A flight through the sky becomes freedom, or perhaps hubris. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung described this as the archetypal dimension, where symbols shared across humanity appear in dreams. If these symbols are universal, one must ask, who standardized them? If humans across cultures encounter the same archetypes, perhaps it is because higher beings have placed them there as common experimental tools, the way a scientist might place identical mazes before different animals to compare results. Another dimension appears emotional. Here, the dream magnifies feelings to unbearable clarity. Joy becomes overwhelming bliss, fear becomes terror, love becomes devotion without end. Neuroimaging studies show that the amygdala and limbic system are hyperactive during REM sleep, suggesting dreams highlight emotion while muting reason. Why? Because pure emotion reveals more than words. If higher beings wanted to study your authentic reactions, stripping away rationalizations, then an emotional dream dimension would be the ideal platform. Spatial dimensions in dreams can also expand beyond measure. You might walk through a city that stretches for endless miles, or step into a single room that unfolds into infinity. These distortions mirror mathematical models of non-Euclidean space, where parallel lines curve and space folds upon itself. Physicist Michio Kaku has written of higher dimensions beyond our three. Could dreams simulate those extra dimensions, giving humans glimpses of realities normally invisible? If so, perhaps higher beings use such dimensions as arenas to test how human consciousness handles infinite space or impossible geometry. Temporal dimensions bring further strangeness. In some dreams, the past, present, and future overlap. You might be both child and adult at once. You may meet someone long dead as though they never left. Neuroscientist Aaron Wamsley has shown that dreams weave fragments of memory into new tapestries, blending past learning with imagined futures. Yet why should these tapestries often feel coherent, even prophetic? Perhaps because time itself in dreams is a variable manipulated by external experimenters to observe how you respond when past and future dissolve into one stream may yield data no waking scenario could provide. There are also transpersonal dimensions, where the dreamer leaves behind individual identity and merges into something greater. Some describe becoming the sky, the ocean, or a collective voice. Mystics have long recognized this as contact with the divine, but psychology frames it as a rare state of consciousness. Studies by Stanislav Grof and transpersonal researchers record such states as profoundly transformative. Could higher beings be deliberately engineering these transpersonal dimensions to measure humanity's capacity for unity, compassion, and surrender to the whole? Consider also the technological analogy. Virtual reality programmers design levels, dimensions, and environments where users face challenges. If humans can construct these digital worlds, how much more advanced could beings far beyond us be in constructing dream dimensions? Each level could test a different trait: emotional endurance, problem solving, adaptability, spiritual openness. Just as you move through levels in a game, so too you may move through dream dimensions under the watchful eyes of experimenters unseen. Imagine your own experience of drifting into a dream that changed dimension mid-scene. You were walking through your home, and suddenly you were weightless in space. The shift was seamless, but startling. Was that your brain misfiring? Or was it a designed portal to see how your mind handled radical transitions? The fact that countless dreamers report dimensional shifts suggests a pattern too deliberate to ignore. As you continue to listen, allow yourself to consider that your dreams may be far more than internal movies. They may be explorations of mind's hidden dimensions, constructed not only by you, but also by higher beings conducting experiments. Every symbol you interpret, every emotion you endure, every space you traverse, every time distortion you experience, could be a carefully crafted scenario. The question then becomes, when you journey tonight, will you notice the patterns of the test, or will you simply live them, unaware that each step through dream dimensions may already be part of an experiment much larger than yourself? Standing at the frontier of consciousness studies feels like peering into a horizon that keeps moving just beyond reach. The more we explore what the mind can do, the stranger the discoveries become. For decades, researchers in neuroscience, psychology, and physics have attempted to map the limits of awareness. Yet again and again they run into phenomena that seem to resist explanation, as if some invisible force is at work behind the curtain. When viewed through the lens of our central question, what if dreams are experiments run by higher beings? These anomalies look less like accidents and more like deliberate markers placed to hint at the true scale of the laboratory. In the mid-20th century, pioneering neurologist Wilder Penfield stimulated the brains of patients during surgery. He discovered that electrical stimulation of certain regions could produce vivid dreamlike experiences. Voices, scenes, even replays of past events. The implication was profound: the brain could be triggered into dream states while awake. But one wonders, if human tools can elicit such precise inner visions, might not more advanced intelligences already possess the ability to do so at far greater scale, crafting dream experiments with exquisite accuracy? Later, in the 1970s, Dr. Keith Hearn in the UK and Dr. Stephen LaBerge at Stanford proved that lucid dreamers could signal from within dreams by moving their eyes in prearranged patterns. The result stunned the scientific community. It confirmed that conscious awareness could exist inside dreams, and more importantly, that experiments could be conducted within them. This breakthrough transformed dreams from private mysteries into testable realities. But step back for a moment. If humans can design such protocols in a few decades of research, what might higher beings, with millennia of knowledge, already be conducting nightly? Another frontier is dream telepathy. In controlled studies at Maimonides Medical Center in the 1960s, Dr. Montag Ullman and Stanley Krippner attempted to send images into the dreams of sleeping subjects. Astonishingly, statistical analysis showed results above chance. Subjects often dreamed of elements linked to the target image. Skeptics argued methodology, but the pattern was too consistent to ignore. Was this merely evidence of subtle human to human communication? Or could it be a glimpse of a mechanism that higher beings use effortlessly to insert experimental stimuli into human dreams? The study of near-death experiences intersects this frontier. Cardiologist Dr. Pim van Lommel reported that patients with no measurable brain activity often returned with vivid, structured accounts. Life reviews, encounters with beings of light, panoramic visions. These experiences resemble dream states, but occur when the brain should be offline. What if dreams and near-death visions are not separate at all, but exist on a spectrum of consciousness, accessible to higher experimenters? Death itself might be one more phase of the study, another data collection point in the long experiment of existence. The field of parapsychology, though controversial, adds further clues. J.B. Rhine at Duke University tested extrasensory perception, finding statistical deviations that suggested human consciousness interacts with probability fields. Dreams frequently display precognition, where events appear before they occur in waking life. Modern researcher Dr. Dean Radine has extended these studies, showing subtle but persistent anomalies in how consciousness interacts with matter and time. If dreams are filled with precognitive fragments, might higher beings be inserting glimpses of possible futures as part of their experiments, watching how humans integrate or ignore such knowledge? Frontier consciousness studies also explore meditation and altered states. Neuroscientists have observed that advanced meditators can sustain awareness through sleep, even reporting lucid dreams or dreamless awareness at will. Tibetan Buddhist practitioners of dream yoga describe using dreams as laboratories for spiritual growth. Western scientists like Dr. Richard Davidson have measured brain patterns of monks, finding unusual gamma-wave synchrony. If humans can already train consciousness to operate across states, perhaps higher beings are guiding or monitoring such progress. Noting whether our species can expand into multidimensional awareness as part of the ongoing experiment, consider too the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences. Dr. Charles Tart and later Dr. Olaf Blank documented cases where individuals felt themselves floating outside their bodies, often triggered during sleep. Some reported verifiable perceptions of objects or events unseen from their physical position. These anomalies blur the boundary between dream, consciousness, and waking reality. If higher beings are testing humans, then pushing consciousness out of the body may be one of the more advanced phases, designed to see how identity and perception hold when the body is left behind. At the frontiers of physics, thinkers like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff proposed that consciousness arises not from neurons alone, but from quantum processes inside microtubules. If true, dreams could be quantum events, waves of probability collapsing into experience. Penrose even suggested that consciousness itself might be evidence of a universe observing itself. The implication is staggering. Dreams could be arenas where not just the brain, but the fabric of reality experiments with itself. And if higher beings exist, they may already know how to harness these quantum processes to design dream states that teach, test, and reveal. Personal testimonies bring warmth to the data. A child dreams of a deceased relative who tells them where a lost item can be found. An adult dreams of a plane crash and avoids a flight, later learning of disaster. A scientist dreams of an equation that solves a problem they could not crack while awake. These anecdotes, though scattered, embody the frontier, moments where consciousness slips beyond explanation. When patterns repeat, we must ask, is someone arranging these events not to frighten, but to measure? As you continue to listen, let your mind rest gently on this idea. The frontier of consciousness is not just a line drawn by human research. It may be the very edge of an experiment designed by higher beings. Each dream, each anomaly, each impossible report could be a calibration point, a probe into what humans are capable of. At the frontier, every discovery feels like both progress and invitation, as if the experimenters wait for us to realize that we are not just participants, but potential collaborators in the greatest study of all, consciousness itself unfolding through dreams. When knowledge becomes too powerful, too destabilizing, or too threatening to the established order, it often finds itself buried. Across cultures and eras, suppressed records and hidden texts whisper of truths that might have changed how we see dreams, consciousness, and the cosmos. If higher beings are conducting experiments through our dreams, then perhaps part of the design involves keeping humanity from fully realizing it, at least until the proper time. Buried knowledge, censored accounts, and secret archives form an invisible lattice that may hold clues to the dream experiment itself. Consider the Vatican's secret archives, a vast repository of manuscripts and records spanning centuries. Though fragments have been released, countless volumes remain inaccessible to the public. Historians speculate that among them may be dream accounts, visions, or instructions deemed too heretical. Why hide such texts unless they pointed toward dreams as contact points with powers beyond sanctioned doctrine? In 1566, Pope Pius V declared dreams unreliable for prophecy, yet earlier church fathers leaned heavily on dream visions. This contradiction suggests a shift from openness to suppression, as though an awareness of the experimental nature of dreams became something to guard. The Nag Hammadi texts, discovered in Egypt in 1945, added another layer. These Gnostic writings describe visions of cosmic beings who manipulate reality and monitor humanity. The Apocryphon of John speaks of archons shaping human perception. Dreams, in this worldview, were not private but infiltrated, tools of higher forces. Such texts were branded heresy and hidden. Why? Because they threatened the narrative that dreams came solely from God or the self. If the dream space was known to be an experimental lab for other intelligences, the stability of entire religious systems might have crumbled. In Mesopotamia, as far back as the reign of Ashurbanipal, dream manuals were copied and stored in royal libraries. Clay tablets listed dream symbols and their meanings, evidence of a systematic approach to interpreting nocturnal visions. Yet many of these tablets were destroyed or fragmented when empires fell. Were they simply casualties of time, or was there intent in erasing knowledge of a universal dream code? Anthropologist A. Leo Oppenheim noted that Mesopotamian dream texts implied repeatable patterns, as though the same conditions were tested on multiple people. This idea edges uncomfortably close to experiments. Even in modern times, suppression appears. In the 1930s, Soviet researcher Vasily Kosatkin collected thousands of dream accounts that seemed to predict illness before symptoms emerged. His work suggested that dreams might serve as diagnostic experiments, revealing hidden conditions. Yet his book, Theory of Dreams, was delayed and censored for decades, likely because it challenged medical orthodoxy. If dreams expose truth beyond instruments, who controls that truth becomes critical? Parapsychological dream research has faced similar suppression. At Maimonides Medical Center, Stanley Krippner and Montague Ullman produced results suggesting telepathic influence in dreams. Their findings, though statistically significant, were met with ridicule, and eventually the lab was shut down. Why? Perhaps because confirming dream telepathy would imply a medium open to manipulation, not just by humans, but by other intelligences. Imagine the societal disruption if people believed their dreams could be seeded nightly by forces beyond. Secret military programs deep in the shadows. Declassified documents from the CIA's M-Culture program revealed interest in dream manipulation and hypnosis. Experiments attempted to implant suggestions and monitor responses. While officially discontinued, these documents prove governments took seriously the possibility of controlling dreams. If human institutions already treat dreams as experimental sites, what does that suggest about higher beings who may have been doing the same for millennia? Buried knowledge is not only in archives, it lingers in folklore and oral tradition. Indigenous peoples of the Americas often spoke of dream trials, yet colonizers dismissed these accounts as superstition. The stories survived only in fragments. For instance, the Iroquois practiced dream sharing, believing unexpressed dreams could cause imbalance. Their belief system treated dreams as obligations. If you dreamed of receiving a gift, the community should provide it. Such structures suggest they recognized dreams as externally seated, carrying assignments from beyond. Suppressing such practices under colonial rule may have erased vital understanding of how dream experiments were once integrated into daily life. Imagine how different humanity's progress might have been if these dream sciences had not been buried. Suppose Gnostic warnings about archons remained mainstream. Suppose Mesopotamian dream manuals had survived intact. Suppose parapsychology labs had been funded, not shuttered. perhaps we would already understand that our nightly visions are engineered encounters, not private hallucinations. Perhaps we would already speak openly of higher beings conducting experiments. Why would higher beings allow suppression? Perhaps because experiment integrity depends on it. A scientist does not tell a subject the entire purpose of a trial. If humanity knew too soon that dreams were laboratories, the results might be contaminated. Concealment ensures purity of response. Buried knowledge, then, may not be failure but design. The records surface only when enough people are ready to see. As you continue to listen, imagine those hidden archives and missing tablets. Picture shelves of manuscripts sealed away, clay fragments shattered, research notes dismissed. Each piece of buried knowledge may not be lost at all, but merely withheld until the experiment reaches its next phase. Perhaps the higher beings who orchestrate dreams also orchestrate what humanity learns, when it learns it, and how. In this light, every suppression is not an accident of history, but part of the great study, ensuring we awaken step by step, never faster than the experimenters intend. Sometimes the most powerful truths are not hidden in locked archives or guarded temples, but left in plain sight, scattered across the ordinary landscapes of daily life. Clues to the nature of dreams, and whether they might be orchestrated experiments, often appear so obvious that most people overlook them. But when viewed with patience and a willingness to connect patterns, these everyday signals begin to form a quiet chorus, suggesting that something larger than ourselves is at play each night when we surrender to sleep. One of the most striking clues lies in the universality of dream symbols. Across cultures and continents, people report dreaming of falling, of flying, of being chased, of losing teeth, of sudden exams or public embarrassment. Psychologists argue that these common themes reflect shared human anxieties. Yet the global repetition is uncanny. Why should billions of individuals, separated by language and culture, dream the same scenarios? It is almost as though standardized conditions were being applied, like the control group in a scientific trial. If higher beings sought comparable data, they would need uniform tests. Dreams of falling might measure fear of loss. Dreams of flight might test ambition or freedom. Dreams of being chased might probe fight or flight response. The ubiquity of these themes suggests design, not randomness. Another clue rests in dream timing. Sleep studies show that REM periods lengthen as the night progresses, with the most vivid dreams occurring in the final cycles before waking. This means most humans dream heavily in the early morning hours, synchronized across time zones. If higher beings wish to observe large populations simultaneously, aligning dream intensity toward the end of sleep would make perfect sense. The timing itself feels like an operational schedule, a nightly window when experiments peak. Language also carries hints. The word dream appears in nearly every major tradition, often linked with destiny, prophecy, or guidance. The persistence of the word through centuries and its heavy symbolic weight suggests humanity has always suspected something more than personal fantasy. Even phrases like "follow your dreams" or "dream job" betray an intuition that dreams are linked with purpose. as if we sense subconsciously that they are assignments rather than accidents. Scientific anomalies add to the pattern. Studies of dream incubation, where subjects focus on a problem before sleep, often produce solutions that arrive in dreams. Famous examples include Elias Howe inventing the sewing machine needle after a dream, or Nobel laureate Kekulé discovering the ring structure of benzene from a vision of a snake biting its tail. While explained as subconscious problem solving, these breakthroughs feel suspiciously like external prompts, as if higher beings drop information into the dream lab when humanity is ready. The clue here is the precision. Dreams rarely deliver partial solutions. They deliver images or sequences that map directly to innovation. Consider too the consistency of déjà vu. Many people report entering a situation and feeling they have dreamed it before. Psychologists explain this as memory glitches, yet the frequency and emotional weight suggest otherwise. Déjà vu feels like a calibration tool, a signal reminding you that your dreams and waking life are connected. If dreams are experiments, déjà vu may be the breadcrumb trail left in plain sight, proof that the lab conditions leak into waking reality just enough to spark awareness. Mass dream events offer further clues. In the days before major tragedies, reports of symbolic dreams spike, waves, crashes, collapsing buildings. After 9/11, psychologists documented hundreds of dream accounts describing planes, towers, or falling before the event. While skeptics call it coincidence, the clustering is undeniable. If higher beings wish to test how humanity processes foreshadowing, seeding similar dreams globally would provide clear data. The clue is not hidden. It is plain in the timing, visible to anyone who compares stories. Even art and culture reflect dream clues. From Salvador Dali's surreal canvases to Christopher Nolan's film Inception, creators repeatedly return to the theme of dreams as controlled experiments. Are these obsessions mere coincidence? Or do artists unconsciously channel the truth? Carl Jung suggested that art emerges from archetypes embedded in the collective unconscious. If that is so, then perhaps higher beings use dreams to seed archetypal truths, knowing they will surface in culture as hints for humanity to decode. Imagine, for a moment, your own recurring dream. Perhaps you often find yourself in a school, unprepared for a test, or wandering through endless hallways, or searching for someone who remains just out of reach. Have you considered that these might not be random? They may be plain sight assignments, replayed until the data is clear. The test is repeated, the maze rerun, until your reactions stabilize. And each morning you wake, shrugging it off, unaware that the clue was right before your eyes. As you continue to listen, let yourself soften into this realization. The most obvious details may be the most important. Common dream themes, synchronized timing, déjà vu, cultural echoes. All of them are clues scattered in plain sight. The reason we often miss them is simple. Experiments lose validity if the subject knows the test. Higher beings may deliberately design clues to be obvious enough to notice, but ordinary enough to dismiss. Only when patterns are connected do the hints reveal their shape. And so the clues continue, patient and persistent. Every night you dream, And every night the same structures appear falling, flying, chasing, searching. These may not be accidents of psychology, but signals of experiment. To see them requires not secret archives or hidden temples, but attention to what has always been there, in plain sight. And once you begin to see, you may realize you have been walking through a field of clues your entire life. Clues left for you, clues designed for you. Clues that whisper the possibility that dreams are not yours alone, but carefully constructed encounters in a study far larger than you ever imagined. The digital age has changed not only how humans communicate, but also how they dream. For the first time in history, billions of people record their nocturnal visions instantly and share them across networks. Online forums overflow with dream logs, hashtags track nightly visions, and apps encourage lucid experimentation. This flood of data has transformed dreams from private whispers into collective archives, open to anyone with curiosity. And within these archives lie patterns that hint, once again, that dreams may not be solitary at all, but coordinated experiments. Their results now easier to measure in the age of connectivity. Dream sharing websites reveal striking global trends. People from different continents report nearly identical images. Spirals of light, endless staircases, shadowy watchers, and sudden floods. Psychologists attribute this to archetypes and common anxieties. Yet the internet exposes just how synchronized these dreams are. Thousands dream of similar symbols on the same nights, sometimes before major world events. In 2020, for instance, forums recorded a surge of dreams about confinement and invisible forces pressing down, weeks before lockdowns spread worldwide. Coincidence or coordinated testing? If higher beings use dreams to run mass experiments, then the digital archive now makes the results visible. Technology has also introduced dream recording devices. While primitive compared to imagination, research at Kyoto University and other labs has reconstructed rough images from brain scans during sleep. Subjects who dreamed of objects, like a bird or a car, produced neural patterns that machines translated into blurry visual reconstructions. The implication is clear: technology is beginning to peer into the dream lab. If humans can glimpse images from the sleeping brain, higher beings may already possess technologies far beyond this, capable of recording, replaying, or even inserting entire dream scenarios with precision. Lucid dreaming apps and wearable devices provide another frontier. These tools deliver subtle stimuli, flashes of light, soft sounds, that can trigger lucidity in dreams. Once lucid, dreamers practice skills, confront fears, or explore imaginary worlds. But consider this: if a simple device on your wrist can alter dream awareness, what could a more advanced intelligence achieve? The digital age provides not only human tools, but also metaphors for the higher level experiments that may already be running. Experiments invisible to us, but structurally similar to what our apps attempt on a smaller scale. Artificial intelligence itself adds a surreal twist. AI-generated imagery and text increasingly resemble dreams' uncanny, symbolic, blending the familiar with the impossible. Some researchers describe AI as a kind of externalized dreaming of humanity. Could it be that our drive to create artificial minds mirrors the higher being's use of dreams as laboratories. We are building experiments within experiments, dream, machines within the dream. Perhaps the higher experimenters watch with interest to see how we handle the responsibility of creating dreamlike realities for ourselves. Even social media patterns behave like dreams. Memes spread virally, symbolic images repeated with slight mutations, echoing how dream themes evolve across nights. Psychologist Susan Blackmore described memes as cultural replicators, much like genes. If higher beings observe humanity, memes may be one of the readouts, proof of how dream symbols planted at night ripple into waking culture by day. In this sense, digital culture may not be a separate phenomenon, but an extension of the dream lab, a second stage where results are measured in shares, likes, and comments. Cyber psychology adds yet another layer. People now report digital dreams, visions of scrolling feeds, glitching screens, or impossible online interactions. These dreams reflect technology, but also carry symbolic weight. Could they be higher beings updating the experiment, tailoring dream scenarios to modern environments? Ancient villagers dreamed of temples and gods. We dream of phones and codes. The structure is the same, the test adapted to context. Dream surveys conducted through apps reveal statistical insights once impossible. Millions of entries can be analyzed with algorithms, uncovering correlations between stress, diet, global events, and dream content. But in the background, one wonders, if higher beings are indeed orchestrating dreams, are they using our technology as confirmation, ensuring that we begin to see the patterns ourselves? The experiment might be reaching a phase where subjects gain awareness, assisted by their own tools. Imagine scrolling through your feed and stumbling upon a stranger describing the exact dream you had. You pause, unsettled. This is the new form of déjà vu, digital synchronicity. It feels ordinary at first, yet uncanny when examined. Perhaps these overlaps are intentional, designed to make us notice. The digital age has made the invisible visible, transforming hidden experiment results into shared experiences we cannot easily dismiss. As you continue to listen, reflect on this paradox. The more technology connects us, the more it reveals how dreams are not private. The dream experiment, once subtle, now leaks into networks and archives. Higher beings may not need to hide their work anymore. The internet itself has become the laboratory logbook, and every post, every shared dream, every meme is data. In this way, the digital age has not diminished mystery, it has amplified it, scattering clues across the web in plain sight for all who care to look. At the very edge of current technology, humanity is beginning to toy with tools that feel eerily similar to the methods higher beings might already be using in their dream experiments. Neural implants, brain-computer interfaces, and immersive simulations blur the line between thought and machine, raising the unsettling possibility that dreams themselves could soon be engineered, not only by cosmic experimenters, but also by our own inventions. Standing at this edge, we glimpse a mirror. What we build may reflect what has already been done to us. Consider the work of Dr. Miguel Nicolelis at Duke University, who pioneered brain-machine interfaces that allow monkeys to control robotic limbs through thought alone. In one experiment, signals from the motor cortex were transmitted to a robotic arm across the globe, moving it in near real time. The experiment proved that electrical activity in the brain can be exported and made to animate another body. Imagine higher beings applying this principle not to machines, but to dreams, plugging consciousness into a temporary scenario, watching how it navigates the constructed world. Elon Musk's Neuralink project pushes this further, promising implants that may one day stream thoughts directly into digital systems. Public demonstrations showed pigs with neural implants transmitting real, time brain signals, while monkeys played video games with their minds. If such crude beginnings already allow glimpses into mental activity, what would an advanced intelligence thousands of years ahead achieve? The logical extension is clear. They could stream entire dream environments into our brains, run simulations as easily as we swipe a screen. What we now consider cutting edge may be a pale imitation of the nightly experiments already conducted upon us. Virtual reality also demonstrates how pliable perception is. Users often describe a blurring of memory after long VR sessions, struggling to separate real experience from simulated one. If crude headsets can trick the human brain so thoroughly, what about dreamscapes rendered by entities with far greater technology? They might not even need implants or helmets. Dreams already bypass the senses, painting immersive realities from within. The edge of technology we explore hints at the sophistication of the dream lab we unknowingly participate in. Artificial intelligence creates additional echoes. Programs trained to mimic human speech or generate surreal art resemble the logic of dreams. Fragmented, associative, uncanny. AI chatbots produce sentences that sound coherent yet bend meaning in ways reminiscent of dream conversation. Neural networks generate landscapes that never existed, yet feel familiar. These are human attempts to build dream engines. Could it be that higher beings are watching, curious to see if we recognize the parallels? Are we imitating their methods unknowingly, rehearsing on smaller scales the same experiments they conduct nightly in our sleep? Medical technology also pushes boundaries. Scientists studying anesthesia find that certain drugs produce not unconsciousness, but vivid, strange dreams. The transition between waking and anesthetic states mirrors the dream border, suggesting brain chemistry can be tuned like a dial. What if the nightly experimenters already control these dials, adjusting neurotransmitters to craft precise dream conditions? Our discovery of chemical triggers may be like children finding buttons on a vast machine, unaware of its full function. Ethics committees debate whether it is right to merge machines with minds, but perhaps the deeper ethical debate has been ongoing for millennia. Only we are the subjects, not the deciders. If dreams are orchestrated by higher beings, then the ethics of experimentation are already being tested upon us. Our growing technological ability to manipulate consciousness forces us to confront, for the first time, the very dilemmas that others may have faced when designing our dreams. Imagine, for a moment, the world just a few decades from now. Neural implants commonplace, VR indistinguishable from waking life, AI companions more coherent than neighbors. In such a world, could you even know for sure whether you were dreaming? The edge of current technology bends toward the very paradox we explore tonight. That reality itself may be another being's experiment. Every step we take toward controlling perception mirrors what may already be done to us on a grander scale. As you continue to listen, feel the subtle unease of this realization. Technology we once considered science fiction is now tested in labs. The dreamlike has become real, and the real begins to feel dreamlike. Each discovery is a reflection, a hint, a quiet confirmation that what happens in your sleep may be designed in ways you are only beginning to imagine. This edge of technology is not an endpoint but a threshold. Beyond it may lie the next phase of the human experiment, where dreams are not only observed, but engineered by our own hands. Yet behind this human ambition echoes the deeper mystery. Whether we are, ourselves, already the engineered dreams of others. And as the night deepens, let yourself drift with this thought: technology is only catching up to what dreams have always been. Controlled environments, shifting realities, immersive simulations. Perhaps higher beings smile as they watch, waiting to see if we recognize that in building our tools, we are building mirrors, reflecting the truth of what has always been happening to us while we sleep. When people imagine the future of humanity, they often picture rockets, sprawling cities on other planets, or dazzling technologies. Yet perhaps the true next step is not outward but inward. What if humanity's next evolution is learning to consciously participate in the dream experiments we already inhabit? Instead of being passive subjects, we might become co-researchers, shaping the laboratory of the mind with intention. Envisioning humanity's next step means asking, how do we move from sleepers to dreamers aware of the experiment? One clue comes from lucid dreaming research. Dr. Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University demonstrated in the 1980s that dreamers who became aware they were dreaming could communicate with researchers in real time by moving their eyes in predetermined patterns during REM sleep. This proved that conscious agency exists inside dreams. If higher beings conduct experiments, lucid dreamers may already be rare participants who break protocol. Subjects who realize they are in the test and begin experimenting back. Humanity's next step might involve turning lucidity from a rare event into a common skill, shifting us from unknowing test subjects to active explorers. Meditative traditions point in the same direction. Tibetan Buddhists practice dream yoga, where practitioners remain aware through all stages of sleep, treating dreams as opportunities for spiritual training. The Dalai Lama has spoken of dreams as arenas to practice compassion, courage, and awareness. Imagine if millions practiced this consistently. Higher beings running experiments might find their data transformed as humanity begins to respond not blindly, but with conscious presence. Our next step, then, is not only about technology, but about reclaiming awareness in states once reserved for unconscious processing. Philosopher Thomas Metzinger has argued that humanity may eventually construct virtual environments indistinguishable from dreams. but he warns that unless we develop ethical and conscious use of such environments, we risk creating suffering. This mirrors the possibility that higher beings conducting dream experiments might also face ethical dilemmas. If we are to grow into maturity, our next step is to handle dreams, not as accidents or fantasies, but as responsibilities. Each dream becomes a training ground, each nightmare an exercise in courage, each blissful vision an experiment in love. Neuroscience suggests another frontier. Dr. Giulio Tonani's theory of integrated information proposes that consciousness itself is graded, a spectrum based on how much information is integrated in the system. Dreams often rank surprisingly high on this measure, showing complex integration even without sensory input. Humanity's next step may involve recognizing that dreams are not lesser states, but equal, if not greater, arenas of consciousness. By valuing dream experience as real data, we prepare ourselves for a world where waking and dreaming are equally valid phases of life. Consider what this would mean personally. You lie down at night, knowing you are about to enter an experiment. Instead of drifting unaware, you choose to notice, to remember, to interact. You recognize patterns, symbols, challenges. You learn from them as though they were classrooms designed just for you. Humanity's next step, on the scale of individuals, is for more people to adopt this attitude, not dismissing dreams as nonsense, but treating them as lessons and opportunities. Cultural shifts may follow. Imagine schools teaching dream recall as carefully as they teach reading. Imagine therapists working not only with waking trauma, but also with nightly dream scenarios, decoding them as structured exercises. Imagine scientists analyzing global dream reports to detect hidden synchronies, patterns that might indicate not random psychology, but deliberate experiments. Society might evolve to weave dreams into policy, art, and daily planning. Dreams would stop being private shadows and become shared blueprints for growth. As you continue to listen, notice how natural this vision feels. It is not alien or distant. It is already happening in small ways. Lucid dreaming communities, mindfulness practices, apps encouraging dream journaling. Humanity's next step is simply scaling these seeds into a new collective attitude. The higher beings who run experiments may have always intended for us to reach this point, where subjects become co-creators. This possibility stirs both wonder and responsibility. If our next step is to awaken in the dream experiment, then how we respond will shape what comes next. Will we resist, clinging to denial, insisting dreams are meaningless? Or will we step forward, acknowledging that each night offers us a chance to grow, to prove that we can handle the experiment with wisdom and care? In the vast expanse of the future, it may not be space travel or technology that defines us most, but our ability to navigate the landscapes of the mind. Humanity's next step could be the moment we collectively recognize that the dream world is not an illusion, but a frontier, an ancient classroom where higher beings test, teach, and watch. And as you drift deeper into this thought, imagine that the next dream you enter tonight is not random at all, but the next lesson, the next experiment, the next step toward the future you and humanity are being prepared for. every civilization has asked itself not only where dreams come from, but what they mean for the deeper philosophies of existence. As we step into tomorrow, humanity may need entirely new frameworks to understand dreams if they are indeed experiments by higher beings. Philosophies of tomorrow will not be content with dismissing dreams as random firings of neurons. They will demand integration, bridging physics, spirituality, and ethics into a single vision that honors the dream as both laboratory and revelation. The first strand of this future philosophy is relational. Instead of seeing the self as isolated, tomorrow's thinkers may argue that the individual is a node in a vast network of consciousness. Dreams are not private stories, but shared simulations where beings of different orders interact. Philosopher Alfred North Whitehead suggested that reality itself is a process of relationships, not fixed things. If he is right, then dreams may be where those relationships are tested and adjusted, a nightly council between human minds and higher intelligences. A second strand is ethical. If dreams are experiments, then questions of consent arise. Did we agree before birth to participate? Some traditions suggest yes. The soul chooses its tests before incarnating. Others argue no, that being born into such experiments without memory of choice is unfair. Future philosophies will need to wrestle with this dilemma. If dreams are lessons, is their difficulty justified? If nightmares are tests, who ensures the suffering is purposeful? Just as medical experiments require ethical review, so too might humanity demand that the cosmic experimenters meet moral standards. The third strand is epistemological, about what counts as knowledge. Today, waking observation is valued, while dream experience is dismissed. Tomorrow's philosophies might reverse this, arguing that dream knowledge is equally real, perhaps even more fundamental. William James once argued that consciousness is a field broader than waking awareness, and that we live surrounded by infinite forms of consciousness. Tomorrow's thought might take this seriously, framing dreams as primary evidence of hidden truths. Instead of saying, "It was only a dream," we might say, "It was a dream, therefore it matters." There is also the question of simulation. Philosophers like Nick Bostrom argue that advanced civilizations might run countless simulations, and we may be living in one right now. Applied to dreams, this suggests that higher beings could run miniature simulations within our sleep, nested realities designed to observe us at multiple scales. Philosophies of tomorrow might normalize this view, treating dreams as experiments within simulations, and asking whether real and unreal even matter when the experiences are felt so vividly. You might ask yourself, what would change if you truly believed your dreams were designed? Would you act differently inside them? Would you wake differently, recalling details not as random, but as lessons? Philosophies of tomorrow may not only explore these questions, but also design practices to help people live as though dreams are meaningful experiments. Every nightmare becomes a challenge in courage, every joyous dream a test in gratitude. Storytelling will help carry these philosophies. Consider how films like Inception or The Matrix have already seeded cultural debate. Tomorrow's thinkers may use art, literature, and film as philosophical laboratories, spreading dream theories through narrative. What begins as story may evolve into doctrine, guiding how entire cultures view the relationship between sleep, experiment, and reality. As you continue to listen, imagine a world where nightly dreams are treated with reverence equal to waking laws. Philosophers debate them in universities. Families discuss them at breakfast as seriously as politics. Therapists analyze them with frameworks blending science and mysticism. In such a world, the line between philosophy and daily life dissolves. Everyone becomes, in a sense, a philosopher of dreams, interpreting their own experiments and adjusting their waking life accordingly. Deeper still, philosophies of tomorrow may shift humanity's sense of mortality. If dreams are experiments, then perhaps death is simply the final dream in the series, the graduation from the lab. Rather than fear, death could be embraced as the transition into the next phase of research. Imagine how profoundly this would change human ethics, politics, and relationships. Wars might lose meaning, greed might fade, compassion might grow. If everyone believed they were participants in an ongoing dream experiment that continues beyond death. These philosophies are not distant speculations. They are seeds already planted in today's questions, waiting for growth. Mystics, scientists, and artists are already sketching outlines of the frameworks to come. Tomorrow's philosophies may simply give structure to what many already feel intuitively. That dreams matter, that experiments are ongoing, that life itself is not separate from the mysteries of sleep. And as you drift further into this reflection, notice how the idea feels at once radical and strangely familiar. As though you have always known, deep down, that your dreams were never random, that they were always teaching you something, always whispering of a philosophy not yet fully written. If dreams are indeed experiments, then their purpose is not abstract but deeply personal. The ultimate test is how well the lessons of the dream laboratory are carried into waking life. Integrating wisdom into daily life is humanity's bridge between speculation and transformation, between mystery and meaning. Without integration, dreams remain strange stories. With it, they become catalysts for growth. The first step in integration is remembering. Many dismiss dreams because they fade quickly, slipping away like mist. But simple practices, writing them down upon waking, speaking them aloud to a partner, or even recording a voice memo, can anchor them. Psychologists such as Dr. Rosalind Cartwright demonstrated that patients who journaled dreams improved emotional resilience, as if capturing the experiment made its lessons real. Higher beings, if they orchestrate these nightly tests, may design them to be fleeting on purpose, ensuring that only those who take dreams seriously retain the data. The choice to remember is the first step toward integration. The second step is interpretation. Ancient traditions saw dreams as direct messages from the divine, while modern science views them as psychological feedback. But integration demands a middle path, treating dreams as symbolic experiments tailored to your growth. A dream of running endlessly might symbolize avoidance. A dream of endless doors might reflect choices. Integration means asking, if this dream were designed for me, What was I being tested on? This reframing shifts dreams from curiosities into actionable insights. Consider how one might apply this. A person who dreams repeatedly of being unprepared for an exam could wake with anxiety. Or they could wake with recognition. Perhaps the higher beings are testing their preparation habits, urging them to face challenges with readiness. The experiment then extends into waking life. They prepare more thoroughly for work, for conversations, for projects. Slowly, the feedback loop closes. Dreams inform waking, and waking growth alters the next dreams. Integration also occurs collectively. Cultures have long practiced dream councils, where communities share dreams and extract communal meaning. The Iroquois people treated dreams as messages that required group interpretation, sometimes even guiding decisions for the whole village. Imagine reviving this practice today, with families and workplaces treating dreams as shared data. Integration would no longer be private but social, weaving nightly experiments into the fabric of human cooperation. Modern therapy echoes this. Cognitive behavioral approaches sometimes use dream analysis to uncover subconscious patterns, while Gestalt therapy encourages dreamers to embody different characters within their dreams, exploring hidden perspectives. These methods mirror what integration could look like at scale, practical tools to bring dream wisdom into daylight decisions. Technology, too, now aids integration. Apps remind users to record dreams, while online communities analyze common themes. The irony is striking. The very digital age that distracts us from inner life may also be the tool that helps integrate it. Higher beings might even use technology as part of the experiment, measuring how humans adapt when the dream world spills into waking devices. As you continue to listen, notice how integration is less about decoding absolute truth and more about participation. You are not required to prove whether dreams are cosmic experiments. You are only asked to live as though they matter. That simple shift from dismissal to respect may be the real point of the design. If you treat every dream as a lesson, you grow. If you ignore them, you stagnate. The experiment measures not your accuracy, but your attitude. Integration also means emotional balance. Nightmares often leave residue, fear, confusion, even dread. But reframed as experiments, they become opportunities for courage. Instead of asking, "Why did I dream that?" you might ask, "How did I respond? And how can I respond better next time?" This transforms suffering into training, an alchemy of perspective that turns pain into strength. On the grand scale, integration may reshape society. Imagine leaders who analyze dreams before making policy, or scientists who consult collective dream databases before designing projects. Dreams would become a second source of data, balancing cold logic with intuitive wisdom. Perhaps this is what higher beings hope to see. Whether humanity learns to unite waking rationality with dreaming insight into a balanced whole. And so the invitation remains simple yet profound. Each night you step into a hidden classroom. Each morning you wake with the notes still fresh in your mind. If only you choose to capture them. Integration requires no special technology, no rare gift. Only willingness. Willingness to write, to reflect, to act. The experiment is already running. The question is whether you will join it consciously. As the night deepens, let yourself drift into this possibility. The next dream you have may not only entertain or frighten you, it may carry the exact wisdom you need. And in the morning, you will have the choice again: dismiss it as random or integrate it as guidance. That choice may be the very outcome the experiment is designed to measure. Living in harmony with the unknown has always been the central challenge of human existence. We seek certainty, crave control, and fear ambiguity. Yet if dreams are experiments orchestrated by higher beings, then much of what we experience is by design unknowable. Harmony, then, requires not solving every mystery, but learning how to coexist peacefully with uncertainty. It is less about conquering the unknown and more about relaxing into it, allowing it to guide rather than terrify. Ancient traditions understood this balance. Taoist philosophy teaches the concept of Wu Wei, effortless action aligned with the flow of the universe. Instead of resisting what cannot be controlled, one learns to move with it. Applied to dreams, this means accepting that we may never fully decode why higher beings design them, but we can still flow with their lessons. Each dream becomes a current, carrying us along. Whether or not we know its ultimate source, harmony comes from trust. Modern psychology also points to this approach. Dr. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, emphasized unconditional positive regard, accepting experience without judgment. Dreams, especially nightmares, often provoke judgment. We label them as bad, disturbing, or pointless. But what if harmony means accepting each dream neutrally, as simply part of the curriculum? The unknown ceases to be an enemy when we stop demanding that it explain itself. On a personal level, harmony with the unknown transforms fear into curiosity. Imagine waking from a dream that makes no sense. Instead of anxiety, you feel wonder. Instead of dismissal, you feel invitation. You may write it down, meditate upon it, or simply carry it with openness through your day. In doing so, you shift from control to collaboration, from resistance to participation. This is harmony, not in solving, but in living alongside mystery with respect. Cultural examples abound. Indigenous Australian traditions speak of the dream time, a timeless realm where ancestors shape reality. The dream time is not fully explainable. It is lived, sung, danced, embodied. Its mystery is its power. Living in harmony with the unknown means cultivating such reverence. You do not need to understand the full experiment to honor it. You simply need to approach it with humility, like stepping into a sacred forest. Science, too, reveals the necessity of mystery. Quantum mechanics shows us that particles behave as both waves and matter. That observation changes reality. Physicists such as Werner Heisenberg taught us that uncertainty is not a flaw, but a fundamental principle of existence. If at the core of matter lies indeterminacy, then harmony with the unknown is not optional. It is reality itself. Dreams, as experiments, mirror this truth. They may never resolve cleanly, but their ambiguity is part of the design. Consider the emotional relief this brings. You no longer need to exhaust yourself demanding answers. You no longer need to panic when a dream unsettles you. Instead, you breathe, accept, and continue. Harmony allows you to sleep more peacefully, to wake more gently, to live with more grace. The experiment may remain unsolved, but you become a calmer participant, one who brings balance rather than chaos into the laboratory of life. As you continue to listen, allow yourself to soften into this understanding. Harmony with the unknown is not passive surrender. It is active alignment. You choose not to fight, not to fear, not to reject.